going on, Alejandro?
What's that?
I'm
How you
finishing up
doing,
my
brother?
last bite of food right here. We got to get the show started on time.
Let's do it, man.
So, bro, we today we're gonna be finishing up what we've got the last little bit of the seller personality types because for the last what has it been now about a month we've been breaking down different seller personality types, understanding our dominant sellers, right? The aggressive red personality types that most people are scared of. We broke down
Mm-hmm.
the analytic personality types, right? Because first off, let's do a quick recap. Our dominant sellers, most people are scared of them, but we understood that these individuals are the people that when you actually build rapport by gaining their respect, by establishing your credibility, that these people
Mm-hmm.
tend to open up and they give you the world.
Yep.
Then we had our analytics. These are the people that are going to ask every single question, right? They want to see your company website. They want to see the numbers. They want to get an email. And sometimes we think when they're asking all these questions, they're doubting us. But in fact, that's how they show they're interested. The more questions they ask, the more interested they are in what you're saying, and the more they
Yep.
have some trust and faith in your credibility, your ability to answer. When they stop asking questions, that's when we get worried. Then
Yep.
we had our steady seller types, right? Our very conscientious people. These are our typical employee type individuals who are really looking for that stability. They want to know that they could trust you. You're a reputable company, that you're going to take it nice and slow with them. You can't really speed up the process. Like they need security here. These people do not jump off the edge of the cliff. Right? These are calculated, slower moving people. They eventually make a decision, but they are not Speedy Gonzalez.
Yep. Exactly.
And then that brings us to our final personality type today, which is kind of funny because, quite frankly, it's my personality type. It's more of an influencer. It's that person that wants to make a meaningful bond with everyone. And guys, self awareness is critical. We got to know who we are. Like I know who I am. So let's talk about this personality type because this personality type is normally in most of the personality tests that you see out there. This personality type is typically colored either blue or yellow. I more often see it colored blue.
Mm.
And these people, really, what's interesting about them, Alejandro, is these people they're talkers. They're the analogy is if you go into a grocery store, your red personality type is the dude that like his wife sends him to the grocery store. It says go and get some milk. So he gets out of his car, runs in, get out of my way, runs to the milk store, swings open the door, grabs the milk, gets out, gets online, gets back home, hands the milk to his wife and says, I'm done. Right? The analytical dude, he gets to the grocery store, he's standing there like, okay, which milk should we
Two
go with?
percent almond silk.
Ooh, this one expires on the 4th. This one expires on the 5th. This is a gallon. This is a quarter gallon, but it looks like this one's 22 cents per liter. Now, what's a liter to a gallon? Like, that's that dude, right? Then the steady person, they're sitting there thinking, like, if I buy this gallon right now, how's it going to affect my ability to buy bread tomorrow? And then my personality type, you know where he's at? Bro, he's not even at the milk aisle yet because this dude walked into the store, greeter said hello, and now he's still having a conversation with the greeter.
Yep.
This personality type, people need to understand when you talk to these people, it's going to feel real good because you can build rapport with them so quickly. The challenge is you might get stuck. They're going to rope you into a conversation that goes nowhere. These people will take you down rabbit holes upon rabbit holes upon rabbit holes, right? Do you ever come across these sort of people?
All the time. All the time, bro. In fact, I love them. I have like a love hate relationship with them. Yep. I love them because they're easygoing and they make my day a lot easier. Because it's not so much negative energy. They're more like on a positive end. And then I got the
Mhm.
hate relationship because it's really tough to get off the phone with them. Like even if you want to, it's like, man, this conversation is so good. Like it's going so well. Like I really don't want to end this conversation. I've sometimes I've had conversations up to an hour, bro. And sometimes like you have to figure a way how to potentially even make that a little bit um, lengthy. You can, do that by setting expectation. That is the easiest way to overcome that. Like, hey, great, I have a 30-minute slot, and then that same person that likes to talk can be like, hey, but I know you got to go, by the way, this is a great conversation. I know you got to go, blah, blah. So it's great. So by setting expectations, it put me in a position where I don't have to destroy that conversation we had for like 30 minutes.
What a DE?
Are we talking about how to get off the phone with yellow sellers?
Yeah. The Marlin sellers.
That's my personality type all day long. I'm not even gonna front. People know it about me. I know it about me.
Oh yeah.
So Alejandro is absolutely right. If you get on the phone with these people and you identify this is who you're talking to, setting the upfront expectation of what the rest of the call is going to be like is absolutely critical. You cannot start these conversations with these people without setting upfront contracts. Daryl, what's an upfront contract?
You set the expectations, right? It's when we let the seller know how this call is going to go, what are the next steps, what's going to happen if we're a good fit, right? What happens if we're not a good fit? You set the expectation. It's almost like when you're in school and your teacher says, this is what we're going to do today, class. We're going to read chapter 1 of Moby Dick. And they put the chapter of the book and the book name. Come on, bro.
Come on, bro.
You're childish, bro. So the teacher says, this is what we're going to do today. And the whole class, they understand the expectation. They understand what's going to get done, right? So it's the same thing when we're talking to sellers. We want to set the expectation. So we know, right? In this case, Alejandro, because he knows that yellow seller may potentially talk his ear off. And you have to know know yourself, right? Like, know thyself. Marlon will probably sit on the call with that person and love that conversation. Me and Alejandro like, no, I need to get away, right? That's why I got excited when we were talking about how to get off the phone with them, because I got a good way. I actually learned this from Keston, right? And Marlon, you may know this, but you're in the middle of a call, right? And say this yellow seller has gone way left, and we haven't talked about the house or the property or their situation for the past 20 minutes, right? And now it's time to get off the phone because you have other leads who need you to talk to them, right? One thing that Keston always did that I straight stole this out of his book. I don't even got a wife, but you act like your wife is calling you and you play that role, right? So you're in a call, you're like, what'd you say, honey? I'm coming. All right, I'm coming soon. Hey, man, my wife is calling me, man. I really have to go. I'm so sorry about this. And then you move forward, right? And they understand, right? The wife's calling, and it's a fun way to get them off the phone. I like to keep sales fun.
Daryl's absolutely right. And let me give you all insight, because I actually do this is my personality type. I'm going to tell y'all the world's greatest secret. You're worried you're going to offend them. These people are very tough to offend. They know they're just caught up in their own world. Like, they know that they can take the conversation forever. So you're not going to offend them when you say, like, hey, when you bring the conversation back on track, you won't offend them unless your intention is to offend them, because these people pick up on your intention. These people are very good about picking up on intention. So when talking to them, this is something that you really want to do. You want to get clear on why you're on the phone. You really want to have a servant's heart when you're talking to these people, because they will pick that up and they will hear it in your voice. Some of the best deals I did last year came from these yellow sellers. It came from these personality types because I took the time to be patient with them. I took the time to really build rapport with them, to the point where they were inviting me out to their homes. They were inviting me out to their family homes. That actually, one of them just reached out to me the other day. I bought her property literally a year ago, almost to the date. And she just reached out to me the other day, and we're still continuing the conversation. A relationship had been built. And that deal, oh my gosh, I bought 3 properties from her for basically 35 cents on the dollar. Because of relationships, y'all. So these people are the best to build relationships with, because that's how you start to open that world up. Now, Daryl and Alejandro are absolutely right, though. You have to create the borders and the boundaries for these conversations, letting them know why you're calling, letting them know what the follow-up call will be in the future, that when you reach out tomorrow at 2 p.m., you will be calling to go over X, Y, and Z. If you are not planned, like if you're not planning for these calls, you're planning to fail on these calls. You're planning to lose 2 hours because Alejandro, what's the opportunity cost? Like, can you explain to people like what opportunity cost is?
Ah, man, that's huge, bro. Because I mean, it's just, it's a complete difference between making phone calls and being productive. Because a lot of people just get on the phone. I have, minimum requirements for lead managers, 100 calls minimum. But the most important thing is 25 conversations minimum per day, which means if you're 100 calls and you only had 15 conversations, you need to up those numbers up. Don't stop at 100 calls because I'm going to look at the conversations, which is, because anybody can make 100 calls, but how many conversations did you have, right? If you have 100 calls and you only had 5 conversations, that's not being productive, man, right? Because the goal is you got to get as many conversations as you can. That's how we gather those opportunities. So if you're on the phone with, a lot of these yellow types personalities, you're going to be on the phone for an hour and 2 hours. Like it takes really, honestly, I think it takes really good skill to be able to get off the phone on time with those type of sellers and
Yep.
still have a good report with them. That's really difficult because sometimes if you make them feel like, oh, he's trying to get me off the phone, he doesn't want to hear me out, you might mess up that rapport. So you got to be really careful how you get off the phone with those type of sellers.
Huge, huge, huge.
Mhm.
And so Alejandro's right. So keep that in mind. When you're on the phone with these people, yes, spend the time, but don't get caught there. Because another thing to highlight is there's somebody who's ready to make a decision today. There's somebody who needs you on the phone right now. And although it might feel good that someone's having a conversation with you, they're being nice to you. If the conversation has now, you spent the last 40 minutes talking about their dog, right? Or you're spending the last hour and a half talking about their grandmother and how nice she was and how she reminds you of your grandmother. And great, you're building a lot of rapport, but you're overbuilding the rapport. There's a point where it's a law of diminishing returns. You're not gaining anything more with all the additional rapport that you're building. And in fact, you're losing money because somebody else is now on the phone with the next lead or person that you should be having a conversation with. So you're
Yep.
losing that opportunity right there.
Yep. You have to win those people over, man. I've had those type of personalities are the easiest people, I would say, to close in my opinion, because once you build that rapport and they like you, like they're ready to sign. Like I've had sellers that sign a contract like legit, like with like it maybe took them like 20 seconds to sign it. Because I went over them, I built the rapport, and then I told them, hey, here's what's going to be in the agreement. And I also sent them a Loom video going over it. Like they just sign. Like there's other sellers that, hey, I need a 48 hours, 72 hours to look over the contract. This seller's like, yeah, just send it to me. Sign. Yeah.
Big facts.
And those are typically with sellers that do love to talk, the yellow personality. They want to talk. They want to continue talking with you. They want to make sure they feel great about doing business with you. Because, especially when it comes to creative, it is a long-term relationship.
Bro, I want to talk about that because that's a big point, right? Like a lot of yellow sellers, they will just go straight through that contract. And it's important to know why, right? Because how do yellow sellers like to communicate? They like their information. They want it to be fun, right? They want the conversation to be fun. They want to have a good time, like you were saying, Alejandro. They want to enjoy the conversation. I don't know about y'all, but reading contracts line by line is not fun at all. Right? So we have certain sellers that we talked about. There's certain personality types who actually enjoy going line by line. And not only do they enjoy it, they find it necessary, and they would never even dream about signing any type of paperwork without going every single line. Yellow sellers are completely different, right? Because like we said, they like their information fun. They like to have a good time. Reading contracts, reading paperwork is not fun. So
yeah,
it's important to understand that as you're sending contracts, as you're looking to close people. Because I know me personally, when I get ready to send a contract and we go over it with the seller, I ask the question first. I'm like, hey, do you want me? I can go through this contract line by line with you, or I can just show you the most important parts. What would you rather? A lot of times they just say, just show me the most important parts and let's get this done.
yeah.
Right. So, did we talk about how to identify a yellow seller?
No, we didn't. What do you typically do to identify them? Because I mean, for me, it's obviously pretty easy because like attracts like, and like see like. You know what I mean? Real recognize real. That's all I'm saying.
But how do you know though? Like when you're on the phone with another yellow seller, like how do you know? Like, okay, of course it's easy. Like is like, but like, what are you looking for to know? Like, okay, this person is a yellow seller.
100%. Well, what you're gonna find with the yellow sellers is these are the people that are willing to go off on tangents. And basically, when you start talking to them, you'll ask them, they're typically open to questions. You ask them a question, and they will typically take a single question. If someone takes a single question and you're just saying, hey, how's your day going? And they run with that for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, yellow, right? If you ask them, you know, hey, why are you selling? And they take it and they run with it for a couple of minutes, yellow. Like when people are just so easy, like you don't have to push hard and they will just open up to you, you are dealing with a yellow seller. The other personality types take a little bit more effort to extract. So typically I tell people, like, if you're not having to put in a lot of effort to begin extracting the information, this person is a yellow seller. And also you'll typically hear the way they answer the phone call. It's not going to be aggressive. When they pick up the phone, immediately within the first couple of seconds, you'll hear it in their tonality. It's going to be a little bit more chill. It's going to be, you know, a little bit more upbeat, I should say. It's going to be, hey, how's it going? Hey, yeah, hey. No, but it genuinely will be more upbeat. These people, they'll allow the hello to be a little bit more cheery, a little bit more friendly. Yep. Huge indicator.
And that's big, right? A lot of people ask, Marlon, how do you figure out somebody's personality type so fast? Right? And you just listen, right? Like exactly what you said. You're just listening for the smallest thing, right? How they answer the phone. Like what you said means that you figure out somebody's personality type literally with the first word that they say on the phone, and you know that their personality.
Yep. What you're gonna find is the repetition, right? The repetition is how you start to pick up on these patterns because it becomes a pattern. You start to realize personality types are pattern recognition. You talk to enough of these kinds of people, you start to realize on a nuanced level, they do similar things. You know, this is how when I talk to someone, if I pick up the phone and I can listen, I can start to tell a person's ethnicity. I can start to guess a person's age. I can start to guess a person. Like there's so much you can guess about a person with a decent amount of accuracy if you are continuously getting on the phone with different types of people. Now, of course, it's not the end all be all. You know, if someone gets on the phone and says, hey, right, it doesn't necessarily mean always that they're going to be that yellow personality type. However, more times, 9 times out of 10, the odds are throughout the duration of the conversation, you will find out that it's true. And in a handful of times that you find out that it's not, great, you're taking in more data. You're calibrating your machine to become more sensitive to this information, to become more acute.
Yep. So you know, it's crazy. I do training on this. I had an acquisition that he's more like a red personality. So he's like all aggressive, sometimes aggressive with like these yellow sellers. And I'm like, no, bro, you can't do that. Like, you know, the seller be like, hey, what's going on? He'd be like, hey, how you doing? Just wanted to follow up with you on, you know, one situation. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, hey, bro, you just killed this report like in 2 seconds. You can't do that. So like so what I do this training based off personality, which is really fun. It's like we go back and forth. So like depending on how I answer the phone, they will then respond to me with a different personality and different tonality. So if it's a high tone, you want to do, you know, somewhat of a high tone. If it's a low tone, you do the DJ voice, right? And if it's more of an analytical, you have to come, you know, a little bit more precise with your words, a little bit more knowledgeable. You have to sound very knowledgeable in there. And if it's a little bit more aggressive type of guy, then you just, you know, kind of you gotta make him shine. You can't outshine the master. When there's a red personality, they want to feel on top of the world. Hey man, how you doing? Oh wow, okay, this is great. You do this? This is awesome. And just sit next to them. So I do training on that, and it's really important. And that same acquisition guy has had way better conversations since then because he now know how to analyze the type of personality he's speaking with. So
So,
really
Alejandro, you said something, right? Also, you said when you were teaching your acquisition guy to talk to these people that you would have him speak and tell the individual, tell the seller on the phone, like, "Oh, wow, you're doing that." Like, you would start to hype them up. It sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. You never outshine the master, make them feel good. Like especially for the red type, right? Because they're so sick and tired of people trying to, lowball, take advantage of him, or just waste his time. Like no one, wants to waste your time. Like, hey, just get to the point. I don't have time to waste. Hey, no problem. I get it, man. I get these phone calls too all the time. Like you get a lot of these people just offering you 50K, half of what it's worth. Me too. I'm like, yeah, man, where these people coming from? And then they start getting all friendly with you because now they're relating with the same issue, which is why they're responding to you when they first answer the call. So now they're like, oh, finally, I found someone that understands me. They just want to be understood.
100%, 100%. So these people, we got to take our time with them. In fact, I'm thinking of something as well. When I speak to agents, right, real estate agents, when I find these yellow agents, so it's not just homeowners. Other times in this business, you're going to be partnering with agents. I want everyone to hear this out loud. Real estate agents are your business partners in this business. Start looking at them as your teammates. They are your friends. They have the capacity to find you some amazing deals. And it's actually these personality types that I like the most as real estate agents. And here's why. These are the people that go and get to know the seller's situation. So when they are dealing with a seller who needs to sell to an investor and you're talking to this agent's a talkative kind of person. So when you talk to them and you're saying, hey, Daryl, the real estate agent, why is the seller selling? I don't know. I didn't ask that question. That's not the answer you get with this person. They sell, oh, well, you know what happened? So Nancy was talking to Bill, and Bill's not Nancy's husband. So what happened was, and they start to tell you all the details that you as an investor need to put the puzzle together to come up with a solution. This is so freaking like it's just, people miss this. I love when I get this personality type as an agent. They are so helpful. And the best is you build a relationship with this kind of agent. This sort of agent keeps bringing you repeat business. I have one of these agents right now who is consistently sending me deals, sending me messages. Now, she and I haven't closed a deal yet, but she's constantly refining. She's finding better and better opportunities each time, and she's bringing it back to me. And when I ask her questions, she's able to come back with all the answers. Such a phenomenal personality type in an agent.
So you're telling me personality types are more than just sellers?
Bro, it is everything. You need to understand this stuff for anyone you're working with in your business, because this really should just be like, it's called it actually at the top, communicating with different personality types. Communicating is a skill that's more than just sales. Yo, is that's Sam Sing? Oh my gosh.
Sing. You just get off the golf course, dog?
Dude, right? How do you know? No, guys, I'm so sorry. Knock on traffic. I missed you guys. I had to run some red lights. I had to run over a little old lady. Flew past a cop, but we're here. That's all that matters. How you guys doing?
Dude, we're doing excellent, bro. So we're breaking down the final personality type, because this is the fourth episode of these personality types. And today we're talking about my personality type. Those yellows, those people that like to talk. They really enjoy the conversation. They really enjoy the emotion of it. And again, these people make their decisions emotionally. I want to remind everybody of this. For them, it's not about like, oh my gosh, here we go. But they want too much money, Marlon. Sam, they're asking for too much. Yeah, I know that's what they're asking for today, but why are they asking for it? These are the people that you need to understand their why. Because when you understand their why, you now have the gateway to creating and bringing forth their solution. Because it's 9 out of 10 times, it is not about the money. Actually, 9 out of 9 times, it really is not about the money. So these are the personality types. So let me ask, what are some great questions to ask a person when discovering their why? Like if you're getting on the phone, Like, Daryl, if you were going to get on the phone with one of these personality types, what would you ask them to start figuring out the why behind their decision making?
You ready? This is really tough. Like, it took me years and years to figure out the perfect question, bro. What's got you looking to sell?
It can't be that easy, bro.
It's that easy, bro. Hold on, I got a remix for you. What makes you want to sell? What drives you to want to sell? Just ask the damn question. What's got you looking to sell this property? That's it.
Bro, this is burning a hole in me because as this personality type, like when I hear a question mark at the end of something, it's like I feel compelled to give you like an entire speech I wrote.
Yeah.
Like, I want to tell you.
So I want to there's a difference, right? Like what you just said is super big. I want to refrain from asking any yes or no questions. Any yes or no questions when I'm dealing with any seller in general, right? And when you're talking to a yellow seller, when you ask open-ended questions that allow them to think and express themselves and talk, you're gonna get exactly that. And what happens when people continue to talk? They may slip out some information that they may have not wanted you to know, right? So that's why we ask open-ended questions. And to answer Marlon's question, how do we get them to start talking about the most important question? Why do they want to sell in the first place? We just ask.
Wait, I want to touch on something you just said, which it's really powerful, bro. You just said they may say something that you didn't even ask them about, right? They may just spill the beans.
Yep.
This is so powerful because I've told my acquisition team about this. I'm like, yo, stop asking these yes or no questions. Just ask an open-ended question and watch how this man spill the beans, right?
Yep.
Because sometimes people feel forced to ask questions, and really, when people ask questions, is because you don't have the answer yet, right? Of course, but if you ask them open-ended question, they're gonna start telling you everything you need to know. You just gotta get them comfortable to just have a conversation with you.
Alejandro, right? What's an open-ended question, bro?
Oh my goodness, bro. Like, this is huge. I have this thing that I say, and it's not so true, but somewhat it is the more yes or no question you ask, the less likely you are to make a deal. Because when you are asking a lot of yes or no questions, you're the one doing the majority of the talking. You're interviewing. People don't want to feel like they're being questioned all the time. So when you ask an open-ended question, so for example, you say, hey, are you still interested in selling? Yes or no. Hey, what's got you into selling? You get two complete different answers and two complete ways of how that conversation is going to end up. So always ask open-ended questions. And what's funny is, like, when we're doing role play and acquisition, they ask like this very simple yes or no question. They're like, oh damn, I messed up. I'm like, no, bro, you could just keep going. But just you can ask an open-ended question, because that's really what I say. Like, the more yes or no question you ask, the less likely you are to make a deal. Open-ended question gets the seller comfortable enough to open up to you. Once they're open up to you, now you have a seller that's comfortable talking to you. If the seller's comfortable talking to you, they're comfortable doing business with you.
I love it. So when we're talking about, and because Chad asked a great question too, so what's a good open-ended question to ask? Typically, a good rule of thumb is going to be asking things that involve the what, why, or how. Any questions that typically start with what, right? What's got you interested in selling? What's going on here? Why are you selling? Why are you having trouble selling? Why has the property sat on the market for so long? How would you like to get this property sold? How would you like to be on to the next chapter? How did the property end up in this condition? Right? When we start to ask the what, whys, and hows, those are typically going to be things that get them to open up. That's why we call them open-ended questions, because they can go in any direction. Let me not say any direction. They can go down multiple paths and truly give us more information while we're still guiding the overall direction towards the finish line. So we're guiding it, but we're giving them the freedom to feel like they're in control of the conversation. Because with yes or no questions, you're not really, when a person only has two options, they actually don't have any options.
Facts.
If you give someone only 2 options, you've given them no options. Really think about that.
Oh, I do that all the time. That's so good.
That's good.
The two options. I do all the time. It's like,
I
hey,
would say this.
do you rather sell it on the market and potentially walk away with this amount of money, or do you rather make more money in the long term? Right? When you get those two questions, like you almost sound stupid saying, "Oh, I want to make less money." No one wants to say that. No one wants to say that. So when you give them those two options, like, well, I do want to make more money, but I don't know if I can do for such long. It's okay. How long can you do? And then you structure a deal
Y'all
with
just
them,
catch
and
that?
then that's it.
Were y'all listening? Because Alejandro just showed you now, because some of you heard we got to use open-ended questions, so you threw out closed-ended questions, right? And Alejandro just showed you now as a master how you use these open-ended questions to guide them to a place where now you can use closed-ended questions to actually really make the obvious choice very obvious.
Exactly.
I would say this, right? You want to use open-ended questions when you're in a discovery phase, right? When you're in a discovery phase with a seller, with a human being, the open-ended questions, they're allowing you to get all the information that you need to steer the conversation. What you'll actually notice, and if you watch like some of the best closers close over the course of, let's just say, a 20-minute phone call, you'll realize in the front end of the call, the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's nothing but open-ended. What are they doing? They're like a doctor doing an assessment. They're just getting you to give them the entire everything. Half the stuff that the seller tells them, not even applicable. Doesn't even matter. But they're going to find the things that they need to figure out what's compatible on the back end. And what will end up happening is as the conversation goes longer and longer and longer and longer, the best closers, you'll see the open-ended questions start dipping away, and they'll use different strategies. They'll use things like false assumptions. False assumptions are one of the greatest things ever, especially with yellow sellers. And here's why. A false assumption is this. Well, I'm assuming you're going to go ahead and do this, right? You know it's wrong, but you're going to play off their natural desire, innate response to be able to correct you. And here's the thing. People don't just correct you. Hey, I think you want to get like 100K for this, right? They're not just going to say no. They're going to say no, and they're just going to fill the void, right? So all of these things, as the conversation goes longer and longer and longer, the questions will have even more intentionality at funneling towards what? A close or desired output, right? So you're going to use things like false assumptions. I love false assumptions, right? False assumptions are one of my ways to be able to get sellers to basically tell me what I think is behind them, right? But they're just not opening up about it. It's how you kind of pry things out of them sometimes. Also, Alejandro mentioning, the 2 options, right? If you use that on the front end during the discovery phase, you're screwed. But if you use it on the back end, this is a great way to assume a close. Someone that I think we all relatively like to look up to is a guy by, this really buff guy, kind of looks like Jesus, but jacked. His name's Alex Hormozi. He talks about how he deployed the double product sale. So he ran a company called Gym Launch. They also had Prestige Labs, which basically sold gym workout supplements, right? One thing that Prestige Labs, what they did is they were working with gym owners who had a problem selling protein powders and creatines and pre-workouts. And here's why. Their sales pitch was basically this. Would you like to add some protein powder? Would you like to add some creatine? Right? That is a yes or no. And they're going to say no because they don't want to add more to cart. Alex came in and he changed the framing. He didn't say, do you want to add protein powder? He didn't say, do you want to add creatine? For protein, would you like vanilla or chocolate? Chocolate. Great. Yeah. For creatine, would you like unflavored, maybe some cherry? Are you looking at, blue raz? Blue raz. Great. Okay, well, you're going to need fish oil too. Do you want the bigger one or the smaller one for the fish oil? You're assuming the close. And what ends up happening is they convert at a higher level. If you do that on the front end, right, present them 1 or 2 options, you're going to screw yourself. You do it at the very back end, this is how you finalize sales. So what you'll realize is, think about it this way, guys. Look at a funnel. Just look at every funnel there is in autumn when you're working on cars, right? Any funnel on the front end of the call, it's super wide. All the open-ended questions are here. As you get more information, you're just directing down to this bottom point, and guess what's here? Verbal agreement for a contract. Now, guys, I am a little bit late. I wanted to talk about this. I don't know. Did you guys talk about how yellow sellers, in my opinion, I think you guys would agree, are the killers for newer closers? Have we talked about that, about like time expenditure?
Yeah, we went a little bit about it, but we'd love to hear your Sam. Come on, man. Give us a sauce, bro.
Okay, so my thing is this, guys. Obviously, as closers and more importantly, as business owners, when we have closers who work for us, it is really important that they're being highly productive with their time. With a yellow seller, you need to, it is probably, in my opinion, the most important seller to maintain control of right off the bat. Why? Because if you give them that control, I swear to you, you will not get it back. It's going to be astronomically difficult for you to do it. And the reason why is because they're just gonna run away with it, right? They're gonna take the ball, they're gonna run away with it. You're gonna just be chasing them around. It's a pain. And here's another thing, guys. As closers, if you are a newer closer, if you're trying to get those reps in, it's really important for you to manage your time. Right, you got 10 sellers to get on the phone with, and you're trying to contact them at the right part of the day, at the right time of day, where they have the time to be able to sit on the phone for an hour with you, right? If you spend that time going after the wrong seller because they're yellow and they just entertain the conversation, and then you think it's okay, here's another big thing you guys need to learn. As all closers, I had to learn this the hard way. Just because you're having an extremely positive conversation with a seller and there's tons of rapport does not mean that they are going to sell to you. And you will conflate in the beginning a cooperative seller who's giving you their life story with someone who will sell you their house.
Wait, can you repeat that one more time? I'm laughing because I see so many people go through this. Like you said, just because you build rapport doesn't mean you're gonna close a seller. That's hilarious, bro, because I've seen people get frustrated over that. Like, I don't understand. I built so much rapport with the seller. He likes me, and what the heck is going on?
Yeah. The seller can invite you to freaking Thanksgiving dinner with the family. It doesn't mean they're going to sell you the house. They're just people. Guys, I love Marlon. I'm going to give Marlon crap for this. Marlon's the nicest, most friendly guy on earth. He will just talk to you. If you drop the word mindset around Marlon Johnson, he will drop everything to go on a 3-hour tear about it at the highest levels. It doesn't mean Marlon Johnson is a motivated home seller. With my guys, right, with my closers, as a business owner, I need my closers to really be discerning with their time allocation. My take is this, guys. If you look at the plot of a phone call, right, the timeline of a phone call, their first 10 seconds are intro, tonality, pitch to get the next 30 seconds, right? The next 30 seconds are determining, you're just doing an intake on the seller's pitch, their tonality, their vocal quality. What is this telling you about their mental state right now? Are they ready to have this conversation? Are they abrasive? Do we need to deploy some mirroring tactics? This is all really dynamic that happens all within the first 30 to 40 seconds. The next 2, 3, 4 minutes after that, all you're doing is doing enough intake to determine if this is going to be an hour-long phone call or a 5-minute phone call and a follow-up later. Now, that 2-3 minutes after you get through the rapport, you get through the wall, right? You have to make sure that you're not just going off this because, oh, they're super friendly. They want to talk to me. They're asking me how my day went. They're asking me how my dog's day went. Yeah, they're telling me about everything under the sun. That's fine. But what I want you guys to think about is this. In my team, I say this all the time. Does the seller have some form of factor, some motivation that will externally force the sale of this property? Or are they just thinking about it? They're just internally thinking about maybe moving to a nicer area and they're going to entertain the conversation. No, we'll follow up with them. If my closer is going to spend an hour on the phone today with them, right? I need them to know in the first 2-3 minutes if this person is in a position, in motivation, in circumstance, in life situation, and also in mentality to be able to have a meaningful conversation about moving this forward. If they're not, pleasantries, little bit of rapport, let's reschedule. Yep. If you don't do that and you aren't that discerning with yellow sellers, I promise you guys, as business owners or as closers, you'll think you had an extremely productive day, but you just spent 2 hours talking to the wrong human being. And guess what? you missed out on the right human being that was ready for your phone call, and they needed to have that talk. I know this because I chased based on all the basic underwriting numbers, I thought I'd make a 6-figure wholesale. It was supposed to be $110,000 wholesale. I chased this one seller for like 2-3 months straight. And I conflated rapport and trust and good conversation, and just like, she just loved me, right? She was like my best friend. She never sold me the property. What now I did, and one thing that I failed to do then is because I was newer, I just didn't have the discernment that I do now. I didn't realize this. I didn't ask myself this question. On the trajectory that she's on and the situation that she's in, will there be a forceful sale of this property or not? And there wasn't. She was thinking about it. She had a renter in place. She wanted to maybe get rid of it and pay off some bills, but she wasn't hurting. Nothing was going to happen in the current trajectory of her life, on the way that it was going. Nothing was going to happen to force the sale of the property. Is there an external motivating factor, an external factor that will come into her life and ruin it, make her sell the property? What are things like that? Foreclosure, probates, divorces, evictions, liens, code violations that can't be paid off. And a job offer that they accepted. Now they have to be in freaking Memphis, Tennessee in 2 weeks. These are external factors that will force the sale of the home. Discern that as early as possible. Because if not, you will not get your time back. To me, yellow sellers are the killer of closers being productive. Completely. This is why I love red sellers. Red sellers, man, you'll know within 2 minutes if this person's going to be a 10-minute conversation or an hour conversation or a 10-second conversation. So I had to say that. I'm really passionate about that because I spent a lot of time. God bless that woman. Her name was Julie. God bless Julie from freaking Connecticut. I forgot where in Connecticut. I still think that she didn't sell that home. I think it's still there under her name, and someone is probably talking to her right now. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm sorry I had to go on that.
Bro,
all good, brother.
Love it. Because these are the things to pay attention to. This is where you will lose time and get sucked in. So really, with these sort of these personality types, like now that we have an understanding essentially of all 4 personality types, we really have the ability to step out into the workplace and into the marketplace and honestly communicate with anybody. And Sam, I was explaining to them that some of my favorite people is when these personality types are found in not just sellers, but also real estate agents. I actually enjoy finding these people as real estate agents. I don't know why Daryl's hyped up. I think Daryl just locked up a contract down there.
Nah, bro. Look at the chat, bro. Levon
said, let's go.
Deal I closed on wholesale hard knocks, baby. That is what I'm talking about. That is freaking lit.
Let's go.
Let's go, man.
That's the power of being inside Daryl's Discord.
Real talk. Levon's in the Discord every day, role playing.
Facts, I see him in there.
Hell yeah. Dope, bro. So dope. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to ruin the conversation. I got a little excited there for a second.
Oh, I was wanted to touch how important is this. I guess we haven't touched on this, but slightly. Having an upfront contract is very important, especially when you speak to these yellow type sellers. So for me, what I do, I have these upfront contracts. Ask the seller if this is a good time before we get into it. Sure, great. And then I always tell them, hey, before we get started, I would love to share with you how we work, so you can decide whether this call would be worth your time to continue. Fair enough? And they always said, yeah, sure, that's fine. Great. Immediately right there with that statement, you take control of the conversation, because if you don't say that, they're going to jump right into it. They're going to start talking your ear off, telling you, oh yeah, this is a great day. I'm having Smoothie King, blah, blah, blah. So once you make that statement and they say, okay, sure. Then you tell them, hey, this is how we work. We do XYZ, which is, we help sellers. We buy properties for cash. Our main goal here is to provide you as much value, whether we're involved or not. We don't need to purchase every property. I'm setting like pullback method, upfront contract, all in one in the beginning. And then towards the end, I always tell them, this is how we work. and we have about 10 to 15 transactions we do every month. A lot of these transactions are families that need our help, people that are ready to sell right now because they're facing foreclosure, they have a death in the family, or they just can't afford it anymore. So whenever we having these conversations, I want to make sure that we're a good fit for each other before we move forward. Now, is this something that you're interested in moving forward within the next 30 days, or do you prefer for us to follow up with you in a few months? Right? I always say a few months because I want to, I want to see where they at. I want them to bring me back to their reality. Oh, no, yeah, I'm ready to go in 30 days. Great, because sometimes if with the yellow personality, you start building this rapport for an hour and until, yeah, but I'm not interested to sell at least for another 90 days or maybe another 6 months. So when you do those upfront contracts, you save yourself so much time. And when they say, hey, I'm not interested in selling until, for the next year, and then you ask them, okay, well, what's stopping you from selling in 6 months, or what's going to happen in 6 months? Oh, well, I'm going to wait till the market interest rate changes or something. Now you have a reason, or you have a opportunity to have a rebuttal that can help you close that seller, even though they think they'll be ready in 6 months, but you can now give them an opportunity to be ready in 30 days. So it's just, again, that upfront contract is really, really critical, guys. And that's with any personality type.
I want to highlight something. I love that. I love that. And the only time where I would say that, and this is something that is not talked about a lot, right? One thing that he mentioned where he has that upfront contract, he basically gets them to tell you what their timeline is, right? Here's a really cool, interesting thing, guys. I realize this. There are times where on the first call with a yellow seller, you may actually want to go into an hour-long conversation, right? Now, by default, where is that often? It actually isn't about this. It's not typically about just doing this with every seller, but let's talk about lead sources. If a seller opts into a Google Ads PPC campaign or an inbound lead campaign, they are motivated to sell, right? It is by default. It is inherent in them checking that box and coming to you. In that case, I agree that I think there is that's a time and place where you do spend an hour on that first call just building freaking rapport because you're trying to lock up the relationship with them. Because if they filled out your Google ad form, they filled out someone else's too. So if you can be the first one to them and make them fall in love with you on the phone for an hour with all the rapport in the world, fantastic. Where I don't recommend doing an hour-long phone call with a yellow seller on the first call is if it's a cold call lead that hasn't been properly vetted again after a VA has produced it. Because VAs may not be able to understand the fine nuances because they're coming from a different culture and they may just forward it and it may not be the best thing ever. So outside of that discernment, maybe there are lead types and marketing methods where it makes sense to go that long. But one thing that I want to highlight is this, guys. Yellow sellers have a tendency to fly off the rails sometimes in the middle of a conversation and just kind of go down tangents and tangents and tangents. Daryl, how do you politely get a yellow seller back on track? Do you cut them off?
Sometimes you have to, but most times when I do cut them off, it's very politely, right? Because sometimes they're going to talk your ear off, continue to talk, and sometimes I wouldn't even call it cutting them off. I would call it just interjecting, right? Like it's kind of like you're playing double dutch, right? Hold on, let me get ready. You just ready to, boom, you get in and you ask your question and you get it right back on track. You know what I'm saying? So I would call it. I wouldn't call it cutting them off. I would call it interjecting and knowing when. Okay, because there's a fine line, right? You need to be able to have fun with them, let them to talk a little bit off topic, let them to get comfortable with you, but you definitely have to bring them back too. And I almost don't know how to explain it. It's almost like just a feeling where like me personally, I just have a alarm in my head that just says, all right, get back to the real problem at hand.
Right. I have a great way to keep people accountable. If you guys are wondering, like, how do you know someone is just, when do we entertain the rapport? When do we entertain it? And when do we kind of end the rapport and get to brass tacks, right? Because you do have to get the job done. So what I actually like to do, this is something that we implement a lot with one of my closers, is specifically this. When we go into a call and we have a suspicion that this person may be a yellow seller, even if it's a yellow seller or not, what we like to do is this, is know what information we do have and what information we don't, right? We don't know their timeline. We don't know their motivation. We don't know the urgency. We don't know influencers. What are influencers? Other partners, right? Other spouses, XYZ, siblings, all this type of stuff. So create a line, and that line is a progression of the conversation. And along the line of that conversation, you're going to get all these little factors that you need. What you have to do is visualize that, hey, sometimes when you're going down the rabbit hole of influencers, they start talking about Cousin Judy, but Cousin Judy is not relevant whatsoever, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to talk about Cousin Judy, and this is actually one of the best ways to do it. When they start going off on the tangent, that's totally fine. You actually interject in a rapport way, in a fun way about Cousin Judy. Oh, Cousin Judy, she sounds like an absolute freaking blast. You know, I actually had a cousin who did the same thing, and then just that way you're relating to her rapport. You're not killing it, which is what you never want to do with the yellow seller. The second that they feel that they've been cut off from a line of conversation that they're passionate about, they can feel scorned by it, and they don't like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to relate to it, whatever the tangent is, relate to it. Oh, that reminds me of my cousin Marlon, he does XYZ, right? And then you're going to find a way to creatively bring that back onto the timeline. And what you'll quickly find is that conversations with yellow sellers, it's just that. You're on the main line, you're on the main road, they like to detour, and you got to just bring them back in again. Every time you do, make sure you relate or be jovial or fun or silly about whatever tangent they're on, and then bring it back. Don't be afraid to double dutch. I was going to say cut off, but I like double dutch. That's actually
something that I actually used to use a lot in the very beginning when I would talk to these people, and I noticed, because again, my personality type is already that, so I already naturally want to go on a tangent, and then I'm talking to someone else who wants to go on a tangent, and we can just spend 3 hours talking about nothing. I used to sit with a sheet of paper in front of me, and on that sheet of paper, I think I picked this up from Sean Terry from way back when. I would draw a dot on the bottom of the paper and a dot on the top, representing where I'm starting and where I'm looking to take the conversation. And as the conversation is progressing, I would just draw my line towards that dot. And then when we start talking about grandma and the kids and their nephew and how their father went to school in the West and he had to walk through the whoa, and I would see that how far my pen deviated from the center of the line, and I would cut it right back in. And something you can know about cutting it right back in, like Sam says, if they're talking about something that's highly emotional, you don't just cut it off. However, if they're talking about nothing, it doesn't always warrant a response. You don't always have to respond to everything they tell you. Hey, you know, I saw a basketball game last night and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Oh, nice. So with the house now, what were you looking to do? When did you actually want to get moving on the property? We just bring, like, I don't even address the basketball game. We just bring it right back because I can tell that they're just talking now. It's not about anything. They're not telling me anything. They're just talking.
Bro, this may be the worst advice that I've ever given on YouTube, but take it if you want, because I do it. When I'm talking to yellow sellers, there's times where, like you said, Marlon, you don't need to respond, bro. There's times where I don't even freaking listen. Like, I have so many things going on a lot of times where I may get up, go make myself some tea, walk my dog, come back, and this person is still talking about nothing. And you didn't miss anything, right? But you need to understand when, like Marlon said and like Sam said, if they're talking about something emotional or they're talking about nothing, right? Because they're talking about nothing. Like, I've literally put sellers on mute. There's a video on YouTube live. I locked
there up. There is. I remember that. You were in the back. You had like a backyard behind you.
I was in the backyard. Sam put in the comments.
Oh my God.
No, Sam said, it was a yellow seller. And I'm talking to him. I ended up locking this guy up, right? And Sam was like, I wonder how far Daryl can walk away and see if this guy would not even notice, right? Or some shit like that. No lie. I got up from my screen. I ran to the back of the backyard, ran all the way back. And this dude's still just talking.
The dude did not
Just
absolutely
talking.
did not miss a beat. I was like, yeah, I remember that. I was just like, yeah, dude, like I wonder how far you could like run away and just come back, see if you still, and you just fucking did it.
Bro, like there's times where, and I'm not saying don't listen to your sellers, because it's terrible advice. It's the worst advice that I've ever given, right? But not everything that they say all the time is important to the sale, right? Towards the deal, right? A lot of it is just a bunch of fluff, you know.
Yo, guys, let's get into some questions. Yeah, I mean we're about to wrap it up. I think I want to get to some questions.
Let's do it. I saw one earlier when making cash offer. It was Mike Carlos Severino.
Mike Carlos.
When making cash offers, what type of open-ended questions to separate yourself from other buyers? I'll quickly say my main thing when I'm talking to sellers, Carlos, is I'm not looking to make a cash offer. I'm looking to see if I can solve something from the seller, right? So I'm not just looking for a cash offer. So a lot of people think when you get on the phone, oh, got someone on the phone, I'm going to make a cash offer. It's very easy to get distracted, and the way you can differentiate yourself from a buyer is by actually talking to the seller and trying to accomplish what they're looking to solve, instead of trying to ask them about, hey, what's the condition of the AC, the foundation, because that's what anyone that's doing cash offers, that's what they're going to do. What's the condition of the HVAC, the roof, foundation, the electric, plumbing? That's what those cash buyers are going to do. So if you approach the seller, hey, I'm assuming you're getting a lot of cash offers, it's just not worth your time, somewhere around 50% of the value. What's going on? Yeah, it's going on. What do you? And sometimes they're not taking those offers because they can't. They don't have a choice. They have a mortgage on the property. So how can they take a cash offer? So Carlos, the easiest way to differentiate yourself is by just talking to the seller and trying to figure out how you can solve their problems. Any takes on that, guys?
I agree with you. And I think something that's a really nice open-ended question that a lot of people avoid asking because they think it's maybe too personal, they're diving too deep into the seller's story, is asking the upfront question, the elephant in the room, hey, Mr. Seller, have you been talking to other investors? If so, like they're going to probably say, well, yeah, we've had some other people call me. Awesome. Just out of curiosity, like I know a lot of them are probably cash investors. We do purchase properties cash as well. Why haven't you accepted any of the offers? Oh, well, they're coming in too low. Well, what's low? Right? So I'm asking these open-ended questions to gather why cash offers haven't worked. In fact, when I asked these open-ended questions, I actually found out before it was one of my first wholesale deals ever, Lorenzo Games. He actually told me that, well, you know what? The cash offer did work. I just didn't like the way the guy was talking to me. So I said, oh, well, his number is actually my number. So if that number works for you, do you want to do a deal with me? And he said, yes. So get that. When you start, and here's the thing, my max allowable, my MAO, my max allowable offer was actually higher. If I had spit out my number, I actually would have given him a higher price. But because I asked questions, I earned an additional $4,000 in the deal.
Yep. I want to highlight this question. I think you guys did a really good job answering the last one. I think you guys crushed it. But would you ever just tell a seller to just not talk as much as they do? I mean, Daryl, I feel like Daryl would walk away, come back, they're still talking. He'd be like, do it again, walks away, comes back. Are you still talking?
Are you still talking, bro? Like,
I
shut
don't
up, please.
The answer is no. Yellow sellers, right? There's people who care about what you tell them, right? Yellow sellers, they're the epitome of this line. They don't necessarily remember what you say. They remember how you make them feel.
Mm-hmm.
They are not transactional. They are relational.
Mm-hmm.
You don't close them by giving them necessarily always the best, most highest offer, the best deal, XYZ. A lot of times you close them by investing a little bit the right way in the relationship, and they'll be loyal to you. We've all had tons of sellers where we've had yellow sellers where they probably had higher offers. They had higher offers that put more money in their pocket, maybe with investors who are more experienced than us. but we want it because we built a relationship. So don't ever do anything with the seller, in my opinion, that could jeopardize the rapport and the trust. And I like Daryl and I agree on this. Always make the seller feel like you're not sitting across the table from them, right? Get up, walk around, pull a chair out, sit next to them on the same side of the table. They should always feel that way.
Facts.
Yep.
So, Sam, is there a seller that you can politely tell them to stop talking as much, and they're not really gonna
Yeah. For the if it's the not so faint of heart, we're gonna be able to do that with some of the reds. Now, here's the thing, right? How you do it, delivery matters with the red seller.
For sure.
Delivery absolutely freaking matters. There's ones that you guys will have to. Do I recommend that if you're new and you're just getting on the phones and closing, you start telling a red seller to shut up? Hell no. You're about to get cussed out, and then you're going to come and blame me the next Tuesday on Think Big Podcast. In the comments, Sam told me to do this. I did it, and I got cussed out. Here's the call recording. You can be a little bit more abrupt with them, right? But you guys ever have those friends? A lot of times they're like former military guys. You know, military guys typically have a sense of humor. It's a little bit abrasive. They kind of come off a little bit strong. Red sellers the same way. So sometimes you can tell them to just kind of knock it off, and it won't offend them. But a yellow seller who's extremely relational, who may be a little bit on the emotional side, a little bit more sensitive, they will take that to heart, and they will, guess what? I had this conversation today, guys. So we're gonna run over a minute, and I want to say this. In life, when we meet other human beings, we are conditioned to label that person as soon as possible. You guys ever know there's certain people in your life where you just can't figure them out, and it's unsettling, it's weird, you don't know how to feel about them, right? But if I meet someone and I'm like, oh, rich guy, oh, super fit guy, oh, that guy never shuts up, I've slapped a label on them, my brain can move on because I'm not processing them anymore, right? When you're talking to sellers, they're trying to label you as soon as possible. And if you give them something negative, like a yellow seller, you tell them to be quiet, they're abrasive, they have labeled you as mean, as rude, as disrespectful, and it's going to be almost impossible to come back from that over the phone.
Facts.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Guys, we're over today.
2 extra minutes for free.
Free. I mean, no, we'll charge you guys later. Housekeeping, guys. Mindset Marlon. Any last words?
Nah, man. I think we crushed it today. So, guys, next week, be back here. I'm not sure. I think we're doing Deal No Deal next week. So I'm looking forward to that one. We got some deals to break down. In the Mindset Manor, we already locked up. How many contracts got locked up yesterday, Daryl?
My wholesale company locked up 2, and I bought a house. And shit, you had a few too, didn't you?
I had a closing yesterday, and then Carolyn and Myron came through, and they locked up 2 in the kitchen.
And I locked one up today.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Let's go.
Man, this is amazing, bro.
Next
I
Tuesday.
just slept. There hasn't been one night slept in here where a contract wasn't locked up.
Oh.
Damn.
So, yeah, I got nothing. I'm good.
Damn.
I think
Guys.
my son's behind you, Marlon.
All right, guys. Next week, next Tuesday, Deal or No Deal. We're going to underwrite real deals, real properties that we're either working on, buying, wholesaling, show you if it's a deal, it's not. If it is a deal, if it's not, what we do with it as experienced investors. We will see you next week.
Let's go.